Okay, welcome everyone to our May Borough Council pre-session. So we're gonna kick this off. We have Sean Hyde, who is the chair of the planning commission, here to give us an update. So, welcome Sean, do you know everyone here?
Most of you, yes.
Okay, great, so let's see what's happening in the planning commission.
Well, I hope you have the report that was generated of all of the fun that we've been having. Essentially focused on things like solar panels on accessory structures and subdivision valuation association and things, and generally the most contentious things. The woman who wanted to have a place to sell her flowers at the end of her driveway was not so contentious. So,
I think it was on that time.
oh yeah, maybe that was at the very end of last
Yeah.
last year. My term kind of runs across the year one. So, yeah, I'm here to answer any. There was an attendance report in there too. I don't have anything to say about that, but we have had a quorum every time that there has been stuff on the agenda since I joined and since I was chairperson, which has been a couple months. So, other questions or anything like that you have for me?
Any questions?
I mean, I noticed that the last time we had a meeting with planning commission, the annual meeting, we talked about, it'd be nice if in the minutes it discusses, you know, with substance, the reviews and what the different comments were and everything. And I've noticed in the minutes that's definitely there now, which I think is a big help, because we're getting feedback that we weren't getting before. So it's really good.
We try and use the new microphones to make sure that there's a hope and a prayer of
Yeah, it's
transcribing what we're saying.
it's much more thorough, which helps us.
So you mentioned the contentious items were like the solar panels and what was the other stuff?
subdivisions, right?
So,
So,
subdivision.
yeah. So the solar panels thing, there's generally a neighbor who's concerned that the solar panels will do things like make noise. We got that one, or cook the grass, or just they don't like how they look. And because they're on accessory structures or on the ground, they have to go through planning commission. Whereas if they were on somebody's house, they don't.
Okay.
I know you guys have had brief discussions about that, I think, last time, so.
And an accessory would be like
A shed,
shed,
yeah,
right?
a detached garage. Yeah, so even like it's an attached garage. No planning commission, it's a detached garage. Conditional use. So, and then, you know, with the subdivisions, a lot of it is, you know, we're trying to evaluate whether they're complying with the aesthetic parts. We rely on Tim a lot to help us with the, you know, did they actually have the size and, you know, stuff to match the ordinances, but a lot of the debate is about the aesthetics, especially parts of the ordinances that are, you know, deal with all four sides being aesthetically pleasing as opposed to just front and things like that. Like the latest one that came in, there was a concern that, you know, this was Cardinal, right? Cardinal Ridge, Cardinal Ridge. There was a concern that, you know, there are different levels that buyers can choose from, and the top level looks really nice. But what is the minimum? Like, make sure that we can see what the minimum, you know, level that somebody can buy is, and make sure that that also meets the requirements, not just top level. Other than that, you know, we can have more discussion either here or offline, the next meeting or something. There was the data center ordinance that came through, and I think there were just a lot of questions that various people had, and unfortunately there wasn't somebody there who was super familiar with the whys, right? So we read it, and then it was, well, why does the proposed overlay district extend so far into R1? Or why is this a separate overlay district from the oil and gas overlay district? And, you know, so I think it's super important. I know schedules are crazy and stuff like that, but it's super important, especially when there is something for you guys, to make sure that there's a representative to explain, because otherwise we're just looking at each other. And so we tabled it because we have, like, if any other person had come before the planning commission, or any other agenda item had come before the planning commission with nobody there to answer questions from it and no, supporting information about it, that's our policy. It's the big one, because if you want them to come back with actually all the information. So
Do you have a meeting this month?
I don't know yet. I only find out like, because whatever the deadline is, Tim's nodding his head like he expects one.
There's one.
Yeah.
The day before council.
Yes. Yeah, it's usually like the day before you guys meet or something.
So.
Yeah.
So this is a clarification, we'll try to have some, I'll try to.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think the main questions were really around why it extends into R1. And the concern about snowballing that effect, oh, well, this part of R1's okay, how come? And, do we actually have an obligation to support if the concern was, oh, well, the oil and gas overlay doesn't have enough parcels that are large enough. We want to make sure that we're not giving what large enough means, because a data center can be anywhere from small places that we see in Texas to much smaller spaces, of course. And so, we don't want to be necessarily giving away more land for this because we think they want big data centers. And the solicitor was very clear that, like, even if it's like, if we provide the space, even if it is not financially beneficial to them to build a small data center, that doesn't mean they can't. So anyway, that was essentially the crux of the discussion. And then the only other thing that's sort of I've been thinking about is when I look at what the planning commission's sort of guiding light is, it seems to be the comprehensive plan. We have to make sure the ordinance is matched, and that's the kind of more quantitative part, but like, how should, and the comprehensive plan was created sort of through and by the planning commission, the way, like guided by the planning commission. And before I joined, so I didn't have exposure to any of that process, but what is the process for like checking in on that and seeing what our progress is? I noticed there are like immediate short term, which was like 2 to 5 years, and a lot of different goals in there. Should we be doing something to see how we're like progressing along our goals in that now that we're not quite 3 years in? Or I don't know, maybe there's already that process that exists.
I've been in the, if I'm wrong, I think 3 of us were a part of around when that was in play, we'll actually go through it. Yeah, I mean, it is a long-term document, I will definitely say quite a few things. This will be challenging.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that's part of the area, and of course, grants. So there are some things that we are chasing that are. Part, say, does get a bunch of letters and comments of which one, but there are various letters there. And that is pretty soon to be opening. Few months probably. So that's one measure as far as like budget items. Yeah. I mean, there are things that sees and bring up, bring it to us.
Well, that's why I didn't know if
But there's no recurring process.
yeah, well, I didn't know if we should have a disc, like go through the things that are in it and look at, how are we progressing on any of them? Which ones are we progressing on, I should say, and are there others that we feel like are being missed or categories?
And
that
it
are
could
being
be
missed?
something that could encourage an emergency update.
Right.
So, yeah, right, so it probably hits the lever on sustainability.
Yeah.
So that's, I know it's part of it. So those are things where it might be a good idea for council to do numbers to take a look at.
Yeah, because it has sort of
Yeah.
more notional things in it, and then at the end, there are a series of tables that are like specific line items, some of them like, connect Blueberry Park with, I don't know what part.
Yeah.
Or something like that, like there are very specific sort of like line items that are in there, and obviously we can't do all of them probably, and they have little dollar signs next to them too, like a Yelp review. However many dollar signs there are, it's like the estimate on the cost. But should we as a planning commission go through and kind of look at those individual, like, quantitative line items, like, are we working on this thing? Because some of them are more like notional, they're like, we want to improve greens, you know, they're sort of more, but some of them are very like this part, you know.
Yeah. I don't know, what does council think?
I would say absolutely. Yeah, I think that's a big part of the comprehensive plan is going back and making sure we're actually following through on what we plan to do.
And what are some things that we can see, what are some things that we can short term?
Yeah, especially if there's this, on the grant side, if there's things where the grants are related to each other. Like, sometimes it seems like you sort of set up the framework for one grant, and it sort of allows you to apply for more.
Yeah.
Not something like
And that's part of how the written, something verbiage specific, so that says what.
it looked like they had actually gone through and listed out, oh, look, go look at these specific grants, you know. For these things, like each category has, in the comprehensive plan has grants that should be applicable to that category. Okay, well, maybe we'll pick a section for, you know, rather than doing the whole thing, we
Yeah,
could
of
pick a
course.
section per meeting and kind of step through, so in a few months we can get through.
And some availability to meet, go over, you know, projects on accomplished, you know, instead of trying to pick and choose best meetings. So as well, I don't have to sit down, go over, you know, work on some things, what we have accomplished, what we haven't. So good.
Sean, I also noticed in the minutes from the last planning commission meeting, there seemed to be some confusion and maybe some frustration that you all have not gotten the data center draft earlier. And to my understanding, I was in those land use committee meetings. From my perspective, I think that was just an oversight.
Yeah,
So we, moving forward, we certainly can improve that, but I apologize for not getting it to you guys earlier. We certainly could have used your input.
Yeah, and again, I am not totally familiar with where in the process the planning commission usually slots in. The comparisons were made to, again, before I was there, to the oil and gas ordinance, where it seemed like people on that planning commission that had been there for quite a while were involved in that in a much earlier stage. And so, you know, I think the frustration was, you guys spent all this time and energy on this. It would have been great if we could ask questions earlier, and so that you're not churning, right? Like, just waste time.
Of course, yeah, we'll take that as a process improvement.
And again, if some of the questions I think would have been fairly simple to answer, but it's typically fast. But
Yeah, I'll try to hear your guys' question.
great.
So, it's good
We missed you.
questions. It was fun, but it was the past much.
Yes, yeah.
As we heard of frustrations. Also, anything else, Sean? Okay, well, John, thanks so much.
Yeah.
And we'll be in touch.
Yeah.
If you need something, yeah.
Nice to meet you. See you.
Yeah.
Have a good one.
Okay, next on our agenda is old business, for the first time the sidewalks. And talk about sidewalks, we have a particular one.
This wasn't me, this was, from the meeting I was here at last. We had in the meeting minutes that wanted to be rediscussed when I was here, and so, I'm back. Yeah, so I don't know what we're gonna talk about. Yeah.
Alright. This is a good question. I actually. You talk about sidewalks?
You talked about like connectivity and missing sections, and you had indicated that to discuss with managers, not to discuss creative solutions.
I think it actually came back to, Sean, emailed the consent to Brian and myself about solar panels and sidewalks, just asking. Further his, discussion about, you know, the overall, you know, plan going forward with, so.
They were working on the solar panels, the amounts of officer.
Actually, I think so. It was a pretty straightforward amendment to change the additional use. Or, keeping it for certain wind and other things, so I'd be, at least in turning, talking with Anna. And putting together the agenda for the planning commission, there's a draft that's gonna be on their agenda in May for review and. To Sean's, because so under the MPC. Ordinances can either be drafted by the governing body and referred to the planning commission, 45 days for reviews and comments, things like that. So that's what the data center, another one, oil and gas, I forget. That's one. Other ones that the planning commission can be tasked with developing an ordinance, and they can put it together and propose it to council. Council can introduce it, so it doesn't have to go back planning commission for reviews and comments. And because this one was pretty straightforward and was a couple text changes that came kind of from these ideas from the planning commission, I think that's the way they're gonna look at it. So you may have a recommendation that comes from them on accessory structures with solar panels.
So the planning commission will get both ordinances, the data center, or to relook at, and also the ordinance regarding these. So that's on, they're both on. the agenda. Which will be held at Blueberry Park because of election day.
Is it still at 7 p.m. or what? What time is
Well, the meeting's at 8,
Days at 8, and pre-meeting is 7.
and you're welcome to attend.
I think it's all
Yeah,
shot
man.
on Friday, I mean, any questions, so. I'll answer. Do there questions? Okay, all right. Now, that's solar panels, one of the sidewalk parks, so. Question was about sidewalks, I think.
Yeah, well, they had raised the issue, I think, in planning commission independently, what they could do about sidewalks. Came to us, we know they can't independently do anything on sidewalks. And then I think the thought was, well, let's see if there's anything that we can, that Zach can help us with as far as connectivity or grants or something like that. To do as best we can with the whole sidewalks that are missing. Obviously, we're not going to take other people's property and condemn it to build sidewalks and then make them responsible. That's not our position.
Yeah.
But is there something that we can do creative as far as connectivity amongst the different communities that may not have sidewalks that are safe to, have the kids walk on? I think that's really where we were going.
And it may not have to be sidewalks either, it could also be, or other opportunities.
Yeah, other paths.
Right.
Yeah, paths and trails and that sort of thing. Yeah, sure.
In that same vein, I was on the EAC meeting on Monday and they briefly brought up sidewalk. They're gonna start looking at also kind of more comprehensive connectivity, sustainability options, not just cement squares, some ways for them to maybe suggest things for us.
Something similar to the Orchard Park. All the residents have connectivity to Orchard Park, maybe all the nearby.
Yeah, the
Something
Orchard
that's
Park
okay.
connections, yeah, that's been a big one. Isn't that what we started with, let's get a crosswalk over there?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, that's the main thing is the residential communities close to our park infrastructure. They want to be able to walk from their homes to it. And so, depending on kind of what we want to do and what we want out of this, you take a couple different options, right? You have your engineer do a sidewalk survey of our whole community, to figure out where our gaps are. So we know what we're exactly trying to do. Or are we trying to find, like you said, creative solutions like at low cost where we're trying to implement options that aren't gonna be cement squares.
That's the issue with the one that we talked about, Orchard Park, is there's no place to go around, they can't go around, we cannot get from point A to point B without crossing.
Yeah.
That road, that's the mission.
Yeah, I think like the latter.
Okay.
Yeah, spent blocks.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, with your building, I'm happy to do that, that's asphalt, but, Marshall, so you can like, they work hard. They're getting like one purchase.
Yeah.
I think they are really plastic. It's
Great.
yeah, grid, right, and then.
So
it
it's
is
permeable, so there's no stormwater issues with it. It
Uh,
actually helps.
yeah, you're right. So, and it's a width of the sidewalk and it's like cement, it's just being.
We don't have a lot going on around here like that, but we could, we just need to
We
come
could,
up with some,
yeah, this would solve the whole gap and.
Yeah.
My neighborhood, there's, I don't know, still there, but there's a house. So.
well, there's a lot now, because
There's a lot.
if you walk around the borough now, there's a lot of sidewalks that are no longer in perfect condition.
No.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
Not,
Okay, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'll start with solutions. I would like the EAC's feedback on some of this as well. So it might not be.
Yeah, no, that's fine, it should be a little.
Okay.
Okay, we good on sidewalks? Okay, Harvard Farms, stormwater OM agreement,
Just an update, we discussed, the last meeting, a couple of changes. I went back, and looked, because our typical stormwater operation maintenance agreement has a copy of the stormwater management plan and the maintenance plan. I think the first drafts we didn't, we were trying to figure that out, but I went and looked at the as-built plans that were given to us by the developer as part of this settlement agreement, and yeah, it is for the stormwater infrastructure, and has an operation maintenance plan, so in the last page or so, we see for others, so how many times it's to be inspected, they don't cut all the grass inside and things of that nature, so we decided to add that as an exhibit to the agreement. Put together a couple of other changes to make it clear that we're talking about 3 ponds on 2 parcels, things like that. And so the next step would be for Zach to talk with the homeowners association president again, with a copy of it. Want to do that before we put it on, the agenda for potential.
any questions?
And there's a chance for you guys to get eyes on it before the HOA and start getting it.
Very real changes. That's what
We changed that money now.
Like we discussed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Couple of cleanups
Yep.
and adding.
Okay. All right. If someone else, new business, the meeting agenda for next.
Yes, we'll have a lot of visitors. Mayor and chief as well, busy for the first 2. Then we'll look back to the mayor to read for the scholarship community members. We should be in attendance.
We are still waiting for confirmation. I think they have until next Friday to let me know. I have 1 who's indicated they cannot attend, and I'm still waiting to hear from 3 others.
So our typical process, read the name, they come up one by one, as their names are read, explain what their future plans are. In terms of where they're going to school, if they're going to work, if they're joining the military, if they're planning a major already. We all are always very impressed and considering our life choices that they've done a lot. They're saying like clear biochemistry, because I didn't know what that was.
You'd think.
Yeah, something like that.
That's who reads the names.
Usually, somebody at the desk reads the names and the mayor would present the certificate.
I think there is a script, yeah.
Yes, there is a script,
I will have.
Yeah.
and there's a summary of the history of it.
It's the same, so.
It is, I mean, you're always welcome to
I'm sure it's very.
Read that.
dab it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Scholarship,
How much?
much was scholarship?
1,500.
This is funded by our golf outing, so
Yeah,
get
okay, fun.
a team together again.
It's just the remote.
For mine.
Yes, well, we did get our notification, setting up at least our sponsorships, very circled, and we're hoping to do better than second to last place. At least for my team. Here's hoping. Figures are right. All right, so that's what we got there.
Consistency.
Yes, no other public hearings Just as a preview though, when we do have public hearings in the future, Sherry, our longtime court reporter, has officially retired. County or sort of day job, but she was great and will be missed, so we will have someone there in place. Now, we don't need a court reporter for a public hearing on an ordinance change. We've had them sometimes in the past, so for the June zoning ordinance amendment on data centers, not having a court reporter, but we'll need one for the next conditional use hearing over some of the others. Not solar panels on accessory structures.
I think selling flower.
Yeah, that's what Sean mentioned. Remember that?
Previous, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was,
Yeah.
you remember that? Yeah.
Yeah,
Home
but
occupation.
we're not doing that again.
Yeah.
We already had one time with them.
Right.
Okay.
Well, we have different property.
Yeah.
That's the question they got.
I know
Already
it's-
that stuff will be, I'll speak.
Right, yeah.
It's a legislative process. They're just giving, there's no cross-examination. There's no requirement in the MPC. They have a court reporter for legislative public hearing. And we'll have them just in case.
The same rule, taxpayer resident.
Yeah,
Anybody can
Anybody.
show up.
not subject specifically to the Sunshine Act. For other. So. All right, in terms of just the other applications, nothing too interesting. We want to talk about the hazard mitigation plan at all? You know,
The county updated their hazard mitigation plan. And so for it to be adopted for everybody, it's another resolution that, everyone gives consent to that. So, pretty standard procedure. I think the last we read, it was a handful of years ago, 23, I think. So it gets updated pretty regularly. This is just, part of our general operation.
and helps for funding. If you do have an emergency from FEMA grant or something. Have something. So we've got that one, got a couple of purchases that we may discuss as we go through. That's about it.
That goes for the floor is approval to revision of building material design. Park footage.
That's on you. There's some changes there. I know that council was pretty impressed with the buildings on West Run Road. Kind of hoping that's kind of what we got, but, the two things that I think that stood out to me, past approval, or this approval is past approval, we had provisions for a finished third floor added up. These now.
Yeah, geez.
And then,
Oh my gosh.
After all that?
All that.
and then, the rear,
Okay.
the rear had a second floor balcony, and they had covered porches. That doesn't seem to be taken off on this one, so, I mean, this is subjective, this is, I don't live here, you guys do. This ordinance is for you to make the decision. My opinions don't count.
Fair recommendation, but
Well, I mean, I'm still mad about the garage doors.
Ah,
But that was your decision. But I did highlight the section of the ordinance, all the dimensional requirements are there. They meet that. There's no issues with that. It's simply the subject of the buildings. So, you guys think that they're meeting the mark on that? That's fine. If not, you can discuss it with them, see if they can step up, play, whatever. But if you need help with it, I can help you, but it really couldn't become me because I'm not gonna be on end, or you guys are.
There are drawings in the, right, that are guides.
Well, those drawings.
they're a little bit, yeah.
They're a little bit out there. But so I think that you should probably look at the text and see if the text is matching what they're providing. And knowing what they were offering originally, knowing what's being provided for at this point by Miranda.
Well, to that sounds objective, not subjective. They don't look at the text. You saying the words match what they're.
Well, it's not, it's much that, do you think,
Mhm.
these are guidelines, so do you think that it's meeting these marks? Planning commission did, I guess, and their second time around, they didn't have any questions on anything, they just So, yeah.
And there's a mix of objective and somewhat subjective requirements there. So you have the spacing, you know, you can't have X amount of feet of unbroken wall, you know, something like that. So that is, measure it, you can say. it.
Yeah, so
They-
I
The
looked
overall
at that, they looked at
concept
that, they're right on the money.
and that all, you know, sides need to have, you know, visual interest, something like
Whatever that means, but
That's
they
when you
gave us
get the-
render drawings that they're gonna stick to.
Well, that's the render drawings that they're proposing.
Yeah, we
So
saw those, right?
sticking to it is one thing, I mean,
Well, are they supposed to stick to it or this is?
well, yes,
subjective?
yeah, no, so that is something, what they're proposing is what they're going to stick to. That's what they're proposing to do.
So we just look at those and say if that's good with us.
I think that meets the mark of the ordinance.
And-
And understanding what you originally, you know, approved, and there are some significant changes there, so if that's still okay, the what they're proposing now, then you should be fine. If you're still looking for more interesting things, then something that you may want to question about, or, you know.
Okay.
go back to the drawing board on.
So if we have, if we seem to have issues, what is this way to like?
Well, this is gonna be a public hearing.
Okay.
What's
What's this motion for?
And it's not even, we don't appear.
I'm sorry,
This is the final approval.
Yeah, so it's just,
Just,
all that you're doing is reapproving this, because it already went through.
We can really reapprove it if they changed it and then it's starting over.
Yeah, you can reapprove it, but as long as you're comfortable with the changes that are proposed.
and they were at planning commission twice.
They were planning commission.
Yeah, so are they on the 90-day clock? Are we considering this a revision?
There's
Okay.
no formal application. This is the change we're
It's
using.
these other guys' shoe,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying, but how is this? How are we having a discussion about, are we okay with what they're planning to do, which is different from the other guys did? But they stepped in the other guy's shoes for the application, that's
Well,
confusing to me.
There's a difference between, yeah, the developer, you know, comes through and meets the terms of the ordinance in terms of the layout and everything else.
And I'm
The
basing
builder,
on the resolution that we adopted for revisiting.
Yeah.
Revisions. Because that is discussed in that.
so I don't know, in terms of, there's no application and being a deemed approval scenario, out really an application. That'd be a hard,
How do we get into this gray area?
With,
Why
with,
isn't it
with the
black and
with the resolution that we've adopted, I mean, it speaks about these changes and how to handle.
it's,
Do you like this now that we're in this process? It seems like it's really.
so
not-
this is
we're
only.
About a gray area, and then we've got this weird subjective thing going on.
So this is the multifamily standards in the zoning ordinance that were adopted some years ago to make. You know, visually interesting, or at least in those pictures that you have in there, are, okay, we're gonna have multifamily here, but they are going to look like a single family residence because they will have architectural features. And there's always that line, because those who went to local government, training academy or boot camp, or went to ALOM or so, you can't, you know, dictate aesthetics. You can give, you know, bonus density points, things like that, if there are certain things you want to see, and ugly is not illegal, is the other phrase. Everything else, so we approved subdivision land development plan, you know, for townhomes, and had, you know, they came back and forth a couple of, we had hand-drawn sketches at some point, and that wasn't getting it done. Finally, it did. Yeah, I'm sure, is it the builder coming in, essentially the new builder, you know, Miranda Homes, who has a portfolio of what they build. Yes.
This is pretty much what they built everywhere. This isn't anything special.
Burritos.
And so as part of the, you know, because the MPC is rather quiet on revised plans or what to do after final approval, we had passed a resolution some years ago that said, okay, certain stormwater changes in the field can be reviewed by the engineer. Certain other ones are more significant, and they come through planning commissions, borough council. We incorporate that resolution in every developer's agreement that we signed. So that's what they're coming through in. It's still somewhat of an added. They pay an application fee or anything like like that.
They're just asking
Yeah,
for
they-
changes to their original plans because the
Builder is different.
the builder's changed it, and the builder doesn't have the floor plans of the previous builder.
Well, not much floor plans, it's more just exterior.
They're changing, it's not just. You would adopt the same thing, right?
Well, and the significant changes, like I said, were the third, with the finished attic and the second floor balcony. The other things are optional, the porches.
Those porches are optional. So we have no idea what the final product will look like when they're done building these.
Well, it'll look like that unless you don't have them, and then it'll just be glass doors and step off the backyard.
Uh-huh,
Until somebody decides what they want to actually build.
uh-huh.
We have two sets of photos in here that seem to be the same. Are they the same or am I just missing something?
Yeah, I think they may be renderings of each. Of two separate
Right,
sites.
but these four, I think four renderings are here and then they're later in the package.
Then it repeats again.
Just want to make sure I'm not missing something between the
I
two.
can't remember, you might have attached them to your report and then they're in the, under Cardinal Ridge, under the, the order of the
I
agenda.
see that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
They're all stamped the same
Stamped,
date
yeah.
received. I just want to make sure I'm looking at the correct version if there were two different versions.
And they meant to give us two, but we got one.
So Tim, you sound a little hesitant on saying that they meet the design standards, which I realize are subjective, but you sound like you have some hesitation there.
Well, that's why I've copied the ordinance, sections that are being requested to be changed. I highlighted those sections, I think, because my idea, I mean, honestly, I was expecting to see an attic finished. I was expecting to see some sort of a balcony out the back or on the side, the end units, just none of that. And these are certainly not what was originally proposed. So, I'm trying to hold ground here because, there was a lot of discussion on this originally when it came through, and, I think that, I think you had a big part in forcing them to provide these things.
Yeah.
So, that's being taken away now, is that if that's okay, then that's fine. If it's not okay, then something to think about.
So I kind of feel like you are saying that it's not okay.
No, what I'm saying is in my mind, it doesn't appear like we're getting as good a product. But that's just me. There's some things missing there that were much more tasteful in that.
First
Right.
question, if they build some like an balcony and whatever, and the not good one, will Borough need to pay for anything like in future? Is it just like, will like Borough be liable for something like, that may cost like Borough something?
Well, I don't think it'll cost the borough anything. It just may not be as architecturally pleasing. But honestly, I mean, this is Franklin Park. Everybody wants to live here. They'll be purchased. Each one of these units will be purchased like that. So that's not the issue. Is this what you want to say?
The next question will be.
Is it high end or not?
Yeah, is it what you want to see? What I want to see is what you want to see.
So will the future like builder use this as something like, okay, in future, I don't need to meet the requirement since that you have approved.
Well, I don't think you can compare things like that,
Okay.
between developments on these things. Will you let this guy do it, not this
All
guy?
right, so this one in particular, high quality materials, which is extremely, so. Are you pointing to?
No, the materials are very similar,
Okay.
but that is something you should take a look at it for something that doesn't grab your eye right. You should bring that up. So the materials are very similar to what was proposed. Nothing is out of scope with the ordinance with the materials they're proposing. They want the heavier type sourced material towards the bottom of the structure and lighter materials towards the top, so it doesn't look unbalanced. And I think they put the mark on that.
Yeah. the material in the front, I'm looking at like acres. It has like four townhomes, right? So. Is this similar? This is a little bit different than like what we saw.
Well, I'm sure that it's slightly different in design and maybe the materials look different,
Okay.
but the materials are of good quality. They're not using plastics. They're not using, yeah,
Vinyl.
yeah, they're not using that. They're using particle board and, you know, things that weather much better.
Very high of that's one of the things in our ordinance about varying the height. This is something you can use to look and say, is this really varying the height of the buildings?
Well, the buildings are varied in height. You can see by the units where they merge, not significantly. And like I said, so that attic space up there is unfinished. That building is not designed to have a finish or a finished attic area. So it's, you know, where the other building was designed for that, and they had floor plans showing that.
Since each of the front entrances has like a, what do you call it? Porch cover.
Yeah, they're set back. They have different facades. I think front of
The thing on the top, right,
Awning?
is that what it's
Not
called?
really an awning, but-
yeah, the roof, they would have a roof. They would have reverse cables up top.
So this is-
Architecturally, that's, you know, what we're looking for. The fronts, I don't, when I compare them, I mean, they're obviously different because the materials are a little bit changed, but they're pretty much have as much interest. Materials seem to be stacked right as far as,
You know,
lighter materials up front, heavier materials at the bottom. The color seems to be good. I have an issue with the front. It's just when you go around the sides and rear, there's not a lot of interest.
I understand. And just go back to the front real quick. What they present here, like when you see a road for townships, I can't remember, these roads, 4 or 6.
Well, I think they have three different buildings, 4 to 2, 5 and 6.
Okay, so
6 is max.
it needs to follow this like the way I look at this, you know, fire goes by town, they can kick elevations, that's great.
Yeah, well, and all of the units are offset at least 4 feet, so there's not, you know, like a flat wall. road.
Yeah, there's a requirement in elevation, you can't say.
They meet all the dimensional requirements.
No, not dimensional, but in terms of like the fire goes in, it says on the sheet, it's elevation of 5,000.
Well, I don't know there's gonna be a whole lot of difference in the difference of facade and elevation, because the materials they're using are all the better quality things, brick, stone, party board, things like that, yeah, so.
Sure.
They're not gonna get a plain Jane thing, they're gonna get stacked different.
I just wanna make sure, like, the town over the end unit, is very plain. So, can the builder, if we were to allow this, like, passive, is the builder allowed to sell, like, all these, something like that, if it turns out that it's.
No, because, you know, no, they're gonna have to have
They're gonna-
pretty much the same
Okay.
facade as what you're seeing.
Right.
So they're gonna be definitely different in interest.
Does that make sense to you?
yeah, but I'm just curious, like, this is such an issue. Is there gonna be somebody on site making certain that decisions to save money aren't made
Well,
you know,
if it's the look of the sod, right, so the way that the buyer was going,
Yeah,
I assume that he was.
The plans will be reviewed before the permit's issued by,
Well, they'll get a permit.
so they're gonna have to build what they're showing.
okay.
At the sealed office, it'll probably say this unit is this facade, this unit is this elevation.
Right.
I'm assuming that's how they will do it.
After he approves the plan.
The planning commission approved it, right?
Planning commission recommended.
Okay.
Afterward, yeah, first, that's the second.
First time around, they were this confused.
Yeah,
And I'm sorry that you guys are asking this many questions and have this much concern, but, and the planning commission had it too. I think after the second meeting, I'm going through there, it's fine. There was no questions. But, you know, I just want to make sure that you're happy with what you're getting, because there was a lot of discussion and foresight on this by you, especially in planning commission and council last time. And it was well looked at. I just want to make sure that you understand what you're getting. Are okay with what you said.
This is different from what we spent all that time.
Well, that was the first that was to Rush and additional story, right?
Yeah,
Well, we didn't change and add an additional story. So it meets the code, basement, 2 floors and attic, because the attic
is not,
is able to be finished.
you can finish. So do you
And
think
that, and that's, so we stuck with that height. But they've chosen not to finish the attic. Where the other builder chose to have an option for third floor.
so this one you can, look, I'm looking at one of these back rendering, there's a window. 3 of these on the window, let's see now. So if somebody wanted to finish that, they could not.
Structurally, they're not gonna be possession, so it's for the third, an attic.
Okay.
It's gonna be trustworthy.
Hey, Jim, how many of these are, these little lines are there? Is it just the one side or is there a couple sides?
That's pretty much,
This is-
what that's, I mean, they gave us, so you can see here that they have 3 porches. And then they have 2 units that don't have anything.
And the porches are optional,
Yeah, so.
they might not be there.
Yeah, well, you may end up getting the back with just, and more than likely you will, because people buying new houses, they just don't buy that extra.
The option and stuff just go, so it just seems spare guns.
Yeah, one out of 30 or 40 have a deck, and covered porch and they don't ever say on new construction, so.
This is not one where there's like a community like square and stuff, right?
Not the back.
Yeah.
No, they're just those backyards will back up the existing yards on Alden Drive. Or against the,
Is there a buffer?
not really, because it's residential to residential, so there's no required formal buffer.
But if it's a case of having.
There is, because we required that.
How many buildings are there? Not units, but buildings.
How many 26 comes up to it? Honestly, I don't remember.
26 units, so.
5 buildings,
Something like that.
some of the floors, there's 6.
If we are, okay, if we decide to not approve this one, so what could we do next?
Well, I think what we need to do, what you would need to do is let me know what you want to see in this and, figure out how we're gonna deal with this, whether it's gonna be them presenting at a public meeting or whether it's gonna be, show us your wares again. Look at it next month, the agenda meeting. There's no real process to this. I guess we would have to ratify this somehow, the meeting with that motion.
This is what, if it gets, well, yeah, we've got it on right now, but Dr. Lee's question, if we say no, what happens? I mean, conceivably, if they go through, a building permit application, and they present those plans, and there's a zoning review, or zoning permit as part of the building permit, and Tim denies it. Conceivably, they could take an appeal to the zoning hearing board of determination of the zoning officer on the zoning permit part that doesn't meet the zoning requirements, multifamily. So,
Or I'm sure they'll be at the meeting here to present this.
Mhm.
So, at motion 4, you can choose the table and ask them to come back with something better.
First, ask that they can give a presentation like other development we had the first time they're going through this, and they can give you the sales pitch about why this is so great. Got specific questions that can point to the ordinance or to, some of the pictures that are in the ordinance as to the back and the orientation and, how it'll be visible from other features. And knowing it's tucked away, it's got the interstate, it's got the colored components, it's got the Mel Wan's buildings to the north and Ford Lane to the south.
Tim, could we
On a
point,
main thoroughfare.
point them to the ordinance?
Yeah,
section.
that was, I spent the first time I stepped on.
The pictures,
I showed them everything more than once.
it doesn't look like it.
Well, I gotta tell you honestly, that some of the renderings that are in our ordinance aren't very
They're a little dated.
desirable.
They're-
looking either.
They're 20 years old.
The intent may be there with them, but, it's certainly not state of the art. Yeah, I mean, would you like that?
No,
Does that look, and I'm not asking them to do that, I'm just asking them to, you know,
Those are illustrative of the concepts, not the design.
Yeah, what's their right now? It's just, what's their plan? All right.
oh, that their lot's ready to be built on. Honestly, as soon as it gives me thumbs up, I'll be sure I'm gonna get 10 permits now.
the seaside resort thing, this is.
That's gone off, I gotta tell you, if somebody brought that in, I'd say, oh my God, it's
Seaside resort on stilts.
shame on us for what that.
Okay, so what is it that we wanna see here, if we're hesitant about this, or what is it that it's lacking?
Well, I feel like we're the kid that like, we were shown one thing and it was really awesome, and then they brought something else and it said, but this will be just fine.
I guess I don't have a problem about townhomes.
Yeah.
I don't think you're wrong,
Yeah.
I don't, if it's deficient somewhere, let's figure out what it
Like
is.
I said, the deficiency is the rear second floor balcony and the unfinished attics, I mean that,
Which provided.
because I think, I mean, there were discussion items here, and they were.
Well, just because we discussed them, that doesn't mean they're under.
No,
any
but I mean,
obligation
they were
to do it.
positively discussed, they like it, the
Yeah, no,
council
they
at that
look
time
nice.
liked that.
This is a different product, no doubt.
Yes.
We were trying to encourage that, the more the look that we saw in the other. Also, right,
Well,
yeah,
those are considered like a luxury town,
Yeah.
right?
and that's what we were going for when we.
It also depends on the builder, right?
Right, but that's no longer what we have.
Right.
So I think we have to. I mean, yes, there's some subjective things that we could go back and push them on a little bit. I just wonder how much more time we should invest in this. What is the end result gonna be, I guess? Is the end result gonna be worth?
Right, it's just diminishing returns, I think.
Right, and even if we say we don't really like this, or are they just gonna give us a different drawing that looks different, but basically the end result is gonna be the same?
Because it's
we'll
really
still
based
be
on
within the
cost,
ordinance.
it's based on cost and
Absolutely.
profit.
It is, and I think they're gonna tell you that they can't put a finished attic. I think they're gonna tell you that they can't do a roof out.
Is it finished attic important to us?
I don't know. Tell me.
Well, I didn't think it was, you
It's-
sound like it should be.
I mean, because it was discussed, I think in depth here.
No, we did, oh my gosh, yeah, we talked about. attic
So I
and
mean,
basement
if
and
it's not
all,
important,
but-
it's not important.
A plus B.
Right, minus B,
I can issue a permit for anything, guys.
that's the goal.
Like that money,
But, I mean, I'm not saying these are beautiful, but I don't know. What are we getting at, right? Like, what is it? I understand we want a lovely product that's going to increase everyone's property values and draw more people to Franklin Park. Do we have the power and the ordinances to get us there? With what we have now?
I think the only thing I can point to is from looking at the ordinance, is that perhaps the roof heights aren't varied and
You
not
might be
based
right.
on the same, that's the only thing.
How much do they have to be buried?
I thought there's 4 feet, yeah, we focused on the 4 feet,
The difference in height speed.
yeah, just to make it more interesting and not like that.
Yeah, the part of the ordinance. It's in the ordinance, then. If you were part of that, you can, but
I'm only looking at the ordinance now,
Yeah.
I get there's be subjective stuff, but, you know, Lauren, you can see, it says 4 feet. 4 feet minimum offset.
if they need a variance, what happens here?
well, if, I don't know if they need a variance for subjective items, that would have to be something from solicitor that would have to be.
Objective warrants 4 feet, if it says.
Subjective items, they would need a variance from subjective items.
So this is,
You can only ask them to better stuff on.
it is 4 feet, they've done what's written in the ordinance.
It does, it says that.
There's nothing here that says it's not 4 feet. but,
What's speaking to that?
But, well, at least our eyes are
There
seeing
you
it, and that you can't.
so maybe at the very least, we all just need a little bit more time to dig into this.
I definitely do, because I mean, I'm not gonna claim to know the ordinance, cover to cover. What I am observing on these pictures is it's supposed to be high quality materials, right? And these pictures are showing the same stuff that they put together everywhere.
Well, they are higher quality materials because, siding can look, vinyl siding from a distance can look the same as hardy board. It's just, it's a vinyl siding, when you get a windstorm that blows off, hardy board's not going anywhere.
Sure.
So that's the kind of thing that they have. So they are providing the better materials rather than things that warp and wave and wiggle.
So better structurally, just not necessarily better aesthetically, it still might look like the general.
Well, it's,
stuff
I mean,
that's,
aesthetics, there's only certain types of materials that they use. I mean, unless you look for a grass side or something, but I mean. You got stone, you have brick.
Wow, what fun.
Yeah, I mean, you have stone, you have brick, you have the hardy board, you got some different other materials. You may have metal, depending on what you have. All of the materials are better grade stuff, so that's not the issue.
So
And I think they're placed properly with the lighter materials towards the top. You wouldn't want your second floor to be stone and the bottom to be, vinyl siding.
No.
So that's, and the ordinance calls that out and they have to provide for that.
So if we don't have any concern for the material,
Well, and again, that, I can ask them, say, look, you're coming to this meeting for examples.
They talk in here about using hardy board and other materials. I can't remember what that is, but
Yeah. So that is objective, I think, and they've got the mark there.
I think that so far, we have the really concern about the design and we want it to be like look better or something like that, I kind of agree with you and more it's just like often they're just trying to build something that just so like compounds and
Well,
so
I mean, you're looking at some of these things here too. You see covered porches and closed patios or whatever. You could ask that they build them, that there's no option not to have. Because, if they don't build them and somebody else is building some, you're gonna have 5 units out there with open decks. I mean, that's true.
Sounds to me like we've got a project for the planning commission to review a 20-year-old zoning ordinance.
Yeah, I mean, that all of this stuff came out of our, what was passed
First.
comprehensive plan before that. So, it was all good stuff and, I think what it did was it actually made this type of construction not desirable. So whether that was the intent or not, I don't know. So we didn't get as much of that because of the guidance of these ordinances, but.
So do we wanna, what do we wanna do? Do we wanna give us questions or?
Well, you know what, I mean, they're coming before you, so you can take a look, and if you wanna table them till June and ask them to give you more information or, redesign something, I haven't seen anything wrong with it. You only got one chance to make it right.
Is there some sort of clock for people?
I don't think so, because this is, there's no provisions and, I guess that's a battle in court or somebody else to fight it.
That another question?
I agree.
so they will show up at the regular meeting.
Well, what I would do is let them present
Yeah,
what
they
you're
will
looking
show up.
at.
I mean, just that.
Well, let them present what they're proposing, and then I will also tell them, bring samples of materials in, so you can take a look at them.
What's that shameless too?
Okay, and then, they're probably 50-year architecture chambers, but I'll get all the materials together. And then, think about some questions about, the decks and the covered porches and, if you're concerned about a finished attic or, if you think that you really like that balcony on the second floor, could they do something like that or, No, they're gonna be quite honest with you and tell you what they can and can't do.
Does Borough have the ability to impose requirements? Having. For
If all those
for
guys must have it.
So it's in the drawing, so I'm not seeing it say it's optional versus.
In their letter, it says optional.
It says optional.
Well, it doesn't hurt to ask them, does it have to be optional? I just understand.
Well, but can we require
And the
that?
borough require, right, that's what it is. Because
If they're willing to accept it, the borough can require it. If they're not willing to accept it, then you're gonna have to think about.
Because it is kind of funny, they say that, hey, we may be sufficient to address your concerns, but they're optional. And if people don't pick them, then it doesn't address them. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, that's. Is the mod, they've got a set of plans, you're right, the gals, to do this. It's kind of like buying a mattress where you go lie down on the first one and it's all crappy, and it's just anything feels better after it. So give you like, here's the first one, oh wait. Here's our second model. So I think you even ask them, hey, bring in the base model, you can see what we're comparing it to. But at the end, yeah, something like that of mandating each house has to have covered porch or whatever it is, we're getting too complicated.
They're gonna tell you that the past builder, had all these things as options too, so they weren't. That wasn't, that wasn't my understanding. Plans that were submitted didn't reflect that.
Yeah.
Even to the construction drawings.
All right. Yeah, it's,
The ordinance for mixed use. Luckily, it's all in one place.
We can table it and.
I mean, if they're not making them happy, you always have the option to table and ask them to,
Provide more
bring you more information.
Yeah.
Make it better.
No, something.
These are our concerns. You can go back to the drawing board.
anything else on the agenda? Okay, if not, ordinance, Catherine, you're quickly, that's not the first.
You have my written report, we have 2 items for executive session, just one preview. We did send out a client alert over a Supreme Court case that came out. Dr. Sean on the way in is making waves in the municipal world as well as in the environmental world as well. The environmental side, where companies that deal with these types of stormwater fees, actually now officially from the Supreme Court, a stormwater tax. So we had explored the possibility, when we're talking about home rule charter communities, because as a borough, we can't do a stormwater fee, we do a stormwater tax, not authorized in the borough code. Second class township code authorizes it, charter communities can do it, and you have stormwater authorities. But that is the big question now. Stormwater authorities or municipal authorities in general don't tax. They have a charge and fee for services. So there's an unintended consequence that did not come out of the Supreme Court decision, because it was focused on a university that was part of the Commonwealth system, tax immune, not even tax exempt, and did they have to pay $130,000 per year for a stormwater fee that they barely connected to, and they had their own MS4, so they didn't address what to do. There were some footnotes saying that we understand that there are such things as stormwater authorities, but we're not addressing that here in this opinion. So it is an open question. We'll probably see more of it at ALOM or other, go to PSATs or PSPB. Everyone is trying to figure out what to do with that. And the other purpose, when we're talking about a stormwater fee, it was to apply to anyone, any property owner with impervious surface. So you're talking about churches and school districts and universities, tax exempt entities that don't pay real estate taxes. This was one way to get them to shoulder some of the burden, so it's not just real estate tax. So stay tuned on that one.
Great, so in the process of saying stormwater fees, taxes when they're paying it, exempt organizations, they,
Not just exempt, yeah, on a case just above, but
yeah.
for,
The facts before them were as a tax. And-
yes.
Right, but then they decided to go even further and say, this is a tax, so you.
No, I mean, that was the challenge, that
Yeah.
Westchester University said, we're tax immune,
Yeah,
this is
they said it's a
a
tax.
tax.
Yeah.
Borough, home rule charter borough said, no, it's not, it's a fee because you could get credits for doing certain things and that, and well, the Commonwealth Court earlier, a couple years ago, and now the Supreme Court said, no, it is a tax. Immune from it, you can't apply it to it, but it's thrown in these other unintended consequences of like, how does this survive for a stormwater authority that has no power to tax? What does it mean for home rule charter communities, St. Clair Township, that have these, and now half of the land is not subject to it. A lot of UPMC property, a lot of hospitals, as well, those types of tax incentive entities.
Well, more to come.
Yes, well, not the Supreme Court, I don't think they're reconsidering it, but. So that was all my.
I don't think there's any point in spending the resources or time to put together a stormwater authority in the case of this decision. That would be goofy.
We're thinking of other ways to. Yep.
Our reports in the packet, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I do have a quick question. The RCT 900 report that you said we did not file last year because we missed the deadline. What happened there?
Well, apparently it wasn't filed by April 1st. Normally answered by the finance. Department. Isn't down, and therefore we do not give any. How much? A little over $8,000 the last time. You file on time this year. That was during the transition period. But,
along with my report, the only thing I gotta add is, tomorrow we're gonna start, milling and paving over in Settlers Rock. Once we get the scratch coat done over in there, we're gonna move over probably to Fields and Nicholson. We'll scratch coat that over there, finish that off, then move back to Settlers Rock and finish that off. And so it's a couple weeks, it's gonna take us a couple weeks, with good weather, to get that accomplished, so as long as we have some decent weather, it should look good. That's all I have. Anyone else have any questions?
How many streets are involved? Are you in the community? How many streets are involved?
The streets, there's 3 streets, Holmes Drive, separate, 3 streets over there. We already did like Shaker's Court and one side of the South Walk a couple of years back here, so we're doing the other half. It's gonna be off this room.
So that completely.
Yes.
Maybe happy.
I already talked enough. You guys have. I'm worn out. Do you have any questions about anything else in my report other than anything else?
All right, you have my report. We're just trying to button up everything for festival. Zach and I are getting a final meeting set up for the open space Parks and Rec comp plan. And then just today, I got across my desk, a bill running through the state about, we'll talk about it at our regional group as well. It looks like they're trying to mandate that if we have athletic groups who lease from us, which we have many, that they have to be certified in concussion and traumatic brain injury training. So I'm gonna learn more about that, but that may come through that we have to have that included to anybody we lease to. Some groups already have it, some groups don't. So we'll see where that bill goes and what we have to go to after it, does or does not go through.
Go through and they get signed.
Yeah, I mean, and it should just be collection of paperwork from the associations. Like I said, half of them already do it. But they're not, they're gonna have to go through some training. That's all I have.
Just a couple minor updates, our memo from last week. Acorn Park, the revised permit was tentatively issued. It's an individual permit, so there's a 45-day comment period. That should be routine and just procedural, so, that's issued void 45 days of the full permit, so that is good. And then Sealco, we did a general update on every pre-construction meeting to be scheduled. It is now scheduled, it's tomorrow morning, to kick off that project, meeting plus standing. But Matt, no other significant updates?
You have my report, more than happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
Oh, yeah. I do have working in my community and you guys put the, what's that?
The JMR, yeah,
So how soon that the result will come out?
it's actually in the report.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
noted in there, yeah,
Okay.
it was low, there was
Okay.
no, yeah.
Oh, another question. And the one resident came to me and asked, like, because some people, some resident, they park the car on the road, just like, and sometimes, it kind of block the half of the road, and so, if that, like happen like quite often, and what should they do, like report it to you guys, or?
Is it, current overnight?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, yeah, I can let
Okay.
the officers know to ride through, and we leave a warning card, let them, remind them of the ordinance.
Oh, okay.
But if they're not violating any other, like, too close to an intersection or fire hydrant or anything like that, they may be permitted to park there during the day. But if they're overnight, from 2 to 5, I believe it is, we leave a little card. If it continues, it can escalate to a fine.
Oh, okay, that sounds good, because I also noticed that, especially, and that there is one S9, like, always park, like on the road, and because, that owners, driveway is kind of like, it's all clear, but he like to park on the road, and for whatever reason, so.
Right.
And, so you guys can.
Yeah,
go
I'll have
ahead.
officers address it, yeah.
Okay, that sounds good, thank you.
That happened a couple of years ago in my neighborhood too. There was a streak of people, especially in some areas where it was like a little bit harder to see at night, and there was some fan mail on the windshields the next day, and then the problem started going away, so it does work.
We don't have anything about the parking right behind somebody's driveway thing, right? That's just a thing that happens all over the borough, and they just have to.
Yeah, when you figure that one out, let me know,
Yeah.
it happens in my neighborhood.
Yeah. I just wanted to check, because it's crazy. Worst is you get the, overnight parked across from somebody's car.
Yeah.
Also really phosphorus.
Thanks. No, it's fine. Yeah, I said so. Yeah, we do. What do you feel last time?
For the zoning, they're all beyond me. Yeah, you didn't take it down. You need for that.
Meeting for the executive.
We have a couple more questions, sorry, before everyone leaves. Blueberry patch timeline, to complete, how long will that take to do the project? I know it's not starting until later, but.
It should be done by the end of the year. It should. We really should have poured in place, because that's temperature sensitive for curing. I'd like really last week of October should be.
Okay, and then Public Works, the garage extension,
That's on my,
oh yeah, I don't have a review. Well, while it's here, do we need to match funds, or will we need to contribute to that at all?
so. When I reviewed it, I didn't believe that it was. The LSA grants are non-matching, which is why they're so
We originally asked for the full
It was
amount.
like 200 or 2 million we asked for, they gave us 500,000, so now we're working within the constraints that we have.
It's gonna be a full structure, though, not just like a.
Me too.
Port, right? Well, like a carport, but it's proper size. Okay, all right, one more question. Andy, in your report, there are a couple of things. In the NOV report, the 1521 King John, the grass, is that the house that we went over last year? There was supposed to get something to blight and someone's gonna. Is nothing happening with that? Was there a timeline on that? Cause wasn't there?
That was to the county, I don't.
Yeah, it's all run by the county.
Okay, well, we should. And Andy, in your report, you talked about replacing the phone system. Is that that's happening or that's a wish?
We're doing the groundwork on that only and working with Zach.
It's part of our capital budget for this year, we budgeted for it to plan, we've had issues with it at the second half project. Second half of the year.
Okay, and last one, Andy, also in your report, you had under high priority, or just different topics, public works, parks, website, social media, posts. Are those just general things you're working on, or are there specific issues?
High priority.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, your general things that we're working on.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Just either for Andy and Tim, my usual question about notices of violation. I saw some that were 3 or 4 years old that were, they not like to be on the violation or whatever, but nothing else is happening now. What's going on? Is that a computer thing?
There's just a lot there. And we're inundated, especially with the snow tickets.
The stuff that worries me is the stuff like these guys built like decks. And all this other stuff and they occupy them now and they didn't have permits and they weren't.
Yeah, I mean, we're taking them down several at a time. It's just, not enough hours in a day.
Okay.
You're taking what down, the violations or the
Yeah.
structure?
Not the violations. I mean, we're, taking them to the magistrate.
I see.
It takes, when you go to the magistrate with this, if they're not complying with you right away, then we're 4 to 8 months out on everything. It's just a process.
Well, then the magistrate also needs time to come in compliance instead of finding. It's pretty typical because what you really want is compliance. You're not looking for a counter.
And that is part of it, he doesn't want to be put in a position where he's finding everybody and,
Right.
those farms aren't helping anything.
It doesn't get what you want, which is, I want this to come into compliance.
Well,
before
yeah,
that.
and then we go back to, sometimes we'll take somebody on a non-traffic citation and, we'll get $500 to $1,000 or something like that, and they don't comply, and now I'm writing 3 or 4 tickets. Some of this stuff just, they never respond to the magistrate either, so I'm sure that they get warrants for their arrest and stuff.
Okay.
A lot of it's into the burden.
But everything on page 4, back on that, so.
Yeah.
Formal legal action.
Good deal.
And we're. Put them on.
Magistrate should have a day for compliance where it brings everybody, put guys down and just threw them all through on a cattle wall.
We
does.
we do that.
You already do that.
Wednesday
They'll
a month.
do it in groups, they try to get everything in groups, so.
And 8 snow citations out there that I still haven't working.
Yeah, well, Andy had a hearing today over the phone with the magistrate because they never sent us the notice. I think it was.
Yeah, but he still got on the phone.
Yep.
And got it done.
Yeah, we got it done, so.
That's great.
You got 25.
Beautiful.
Save gas from driving out there.
It's true. Some of it is wrong.
Yeah, you can suggest Judge Roselli, we could be more official, use a telephone call for some.
Meetings.
We don't have to file into the courtroom.
Is there any more questions? Laura?
Yeah, no, that's okay.
Anyone else? Yeah, all right, have a good evening, everyone.
Thanks.
Sorry, so, do your four items?
Yeah, no problem. Montgomery Road.
Was Tim not saying? I thought you said everyone but Tim.
Yeah, we excused him.
The Montgomery Road project that was funded by the county started on Monday. They were able to get out here sooner than later. It's looking to be like a 2-week project, so that should be done pretty quickly. Fish Run, we were trying to secure, right of entry agreements in for Shadowbrook. I have them all done but one, and the one that I'm waiting on is verbally confirmed to be assigned. And so it looks like we're gonna be able to get that project done, 27, without, major impact on our residents. Plan, we already talked about that. We're meeting next week with our consultant to start planning that out. Matterhorn Detention Pond, all permits are officially closed and that project is done. Northland Public Library, the articles of incorporation are expiring, at over 50 years. So, the new, library director will be likely coming out to meet with everybody, to try to get everyone back under agreement for another 50 years.
Wow.
The expiration is what's lost.
Municipal authority.
Yeah, the Public Works Garage, in 23, we received an LSA grant. We applied for, $2 million. We got 500,000. We had to change how we were going to do this. Originally, it's gonna be attachment off of our garage. The sewer line runs right there. So we were gonna have to redirect the sewer line as part of the grant in order to extend our building. The workaround is we're just gonna leave the 20-foot right away between two buildings, change how we're structuring it. In order to be able to use this funding, for the space we desperately need. We have, COVID sitting outside, that's in the weather, that is not helping anybody. I'm in the process of updating all of our athletic association leases. We have 5 associations, 4 of them were under lease, 3 of those 4 were expired. And so I'm rewriting them to get everyone back up and into some sort of compliance. Andy and I have been working on the, more Andy than myself, the resident concern log, getting that all taken care of. My goal is by this time next month to have some version of it on our website. Things that aren't on here that are new, spoke with the Union for Public Works. We're gonna meet at the beginning of June to start discussions, and I am finalizing our bid for trash, which my intention is to put out in June.
You put that trash out.
Our bid out.
That was a bad joke.
Yeah. Still do that.
So perfect.
Well, you can get my headache, joke for the concussion training. Saving
That's my
the.
report. You guys have any questions?
Too much spark.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sounds good. Okay, so, next up, statement of financial interest.
Yes. So fees, required by the Ethics Act for public officials, public employees. We long had a practice, when somebody is coming forward to be appointed to a board, as part of their application, they submit a statement of financial interests, and then once they're appointed, they are put on the list. So Kathy, as you all know, sends those out as early as January or so. Of course, backward looking for the previous year, due by May 1st. It covers everybody, planning commission, zoning hearing board, you do scholarship committee, nothing, yeah, everybody, just for ease of reference. There is a definition in the Ethics Act that essentially says if you're a public official appointed by a board or by a governing body, et cetera, you fill one out unless you're advisory only and you have no ability to commit, funds of the borough. And you're not paid other than reimbursement of usual expenses. So that's there in the act. Because it is easier just to send it out to everyone, that's been sort of our approach. We did get a response from a member of the EAC, Environmental Advisory Council or Council Committee, essentially pointing out that sub-exception to the definition, acknowledging it filled them out before, but was not planning to do so going forward. So Kathy and I went back and forth. I mean, there are options to seek an advisory opinion from the Ethics Commission. You know, we could even give them every, a board and sort of ask them the differences. Or, because this has been our practice and our procedure, even though it isn't required for all of those positions, specifically under the Ethics Act, it's still some function of good governance. You know, who is appointed, what their interests are, even if they are just advising and aren't spending money from the borough. We can flavor, how that advice is taken if you see somebody is employed by whatever it is, and Pennsylvania's Future, the Penn Future NGO, and they're given environmental advice. So this particular individual, said if we were going to push it, we just resign. That'd be it. So that's why we thought we needed to bring it just to council. It's more of a refresher. This was a practice put in place some time ago as we expanded the number of boards, and at that time, rather than say, okay, well, planning commission, no, you're advisory and give recommendations, but you might expend some money because you might propose that, we're gonna do a review of the ordinance, and all of a sudden the solicitor's involved, and things of that nature. And same with EAC and others, as part of just good government, it was a requirement. So the long story short, if we ever get audited by the Ethics Commission, and it has happened in the past, if anybody makes a complaint to the Ethics Commission just about one particular member, a vote that's taken out there, and it should have been an abstention, or conflict of interest memo, fine, it wasn't. They come in, they pull all the statements of financial interest just as part of their investigation, and then if they see an issue that somebody didn't include their income in two places. One I got once for another client years and years ago, or said who I was employed by, but then didn't say also I got an income from them. So they send out, it's a check in your box, yeah. So they send a letter and say, you just need to submit an updated one, or potential action will be taken. So these are all like personal obligations on the appointees and other. If they came in and said, well, there's not one from the EAC, there is that defense that it's advisory or so likely would not, result in an ethics investigation or anything like that. But as we said, just for ease of reference and for general good government, you've had this process in place that everybody who is appointed that comes before you gets interviewed, gets appointed at a motion out front. As part of both that process to get appointed and to continue, they are expected to submit a statement of financial interest to be maintained by the borough.
And you completed towards the end of last year to be appointed.
Publicly available. Is it publicly available?
Under the Ethics Act.
Can
Yes.
somebody ask for it under,
Yes.
under like a right to know request?
If they do it under right to know, you can redact certain information, but generally, the Office of Records and the Ethics Commission take the position that they need to be reviewed in person. Somebody can come in and look at it, see it like that. If you go, you can file them online
I do,
as well.
for years.
Yes, and those ones are available. You can just, they just look this up
I
online.
think so, yeah.
The only time I've ever had anybody ask is mostly election.
Yeah.
Candidates running and other candidates
Yeah.
follow their statement is required.
Wow, yeah.
Well, and that's a whole other issue of one of the traps in the election code that you have to, is your petition, your nomination petition. Have to have that, and you have to give a copy to the secretary of the local government.
That's right, so here, it's Kathy, do the counting, however far up you're going in your block. So there's this objection, I don't want to do a statement about the individual person if you don't like it, always.
Well, I don't think that's quite the tone that he was using, but that was the That didn't come off to me that way, but that is the spirit of it.
Okay, fine.
Um,
I put on every year on the EAC for 5 years. It never occurred to me that it was.
And like you said, 99% of the time, they go in a folder, they go in a filing cabinet. Nobody ever looks at them. In my 37 years, we were audited one time.
Yeah.
Nobody ever looks at them.
I think that's great, but I just think whenever.
You know, it's not like we have people in here,
right.
you know,
right.
looking through everybody's
Yeah.
form to see what they're in.
Yeah.
Connected with.
That's my point.
Connected with the government in some way, taxpayers' money, even if you're not getting it, you're making some decision that impacts something, final outcome of something, even if you're just advising. I feel like a statement of financial interest is like a reasonable request. Just me.
Still avoid a bunch of fun on this, you know.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, you've had a few people decide not to apply or follow through because of the requirement.
I'm trying to think there was, it's usually the background check.
That's what I thought.
I think.
It was too much, you want to do it.
It's usually not that. We do have another applicant. After review.
Well, I have to run their checks.
Yeah.
Then will they do secret?
That's already done.
Yeah.
Do we do pre-employment drug testing? Do we do
Employees.
pre-employment drug testing for employees?
Employees, not
Yeah.
for video.
I mean, you could ask. I would say, I'd hate to lose a volunteer member of the EAC, someone who seems like they're invested and interested, but I think, to me, I think the points that you point out, Max, that it's just better to have this transparency, even though no one actually looks at it, but it's just better to have the records and to know that there's at least not an obvious financial trail to someone who's making decisions.
I mean, I think so too.
I think that ain't gonna be.
Will they be making a recommendation on, like, is it grant money they received?
Well, I got a grant from, we put in Birdtown, right? So they're deciding, letting them decide how they're. And so like they are, you know, making some financial decisions.
Well, and they're giving us
Yeah.
recommendations, right? So if, not to say any of them have any ill intent, but at some point, if someone did have financial interest in something, they could easily recommend something,
And tilted.
right? So I'd just rather err on the side of caution.
How about if you're
Like money's gonna go there.
Cover
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah, I would hate to lose someone from EAC, but I think overall, the more important thing is to
Keep it transparent.
and it's kind of a blanket procedure we do across, just for.
You don't have to do a case by case analysis of who
Yeah.
does the statement.
Right.
So it just needs to be a bright line rule. If you're on one of the committees, council, whatever, you're gonna do it.
We should keep it in that,
Yeah.
each one member, has some concern, he or she can. And whatever. What we want to do, but we should keep it. Because it has been going well, and for so many years, why, we don't go on to.
So how many left from the 1 month?
There's one vacancy currently.
42 or how many are in the? total?
Two, is this person resigned?
I'm sorry, yes, if this person resigns, then there will be two, I'm sorry.
Oh, we have an application. today.
We have an application.
Yeah.
And they're willing to, they've already done it.
Yeah.
So. It's not gonna do it though.
And some.
That's what-
Take one letter.
All
right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. And, that form, is everyone, are we all? Has everyone filled theirs?
That's for the ethics commission.
Well, when submitting online, I don't need to give a copy to you, right?
Pardon me?
I submitted online. So then no need to give a paper copy.
You do have to give me a paper copy, yes.
The online is the state.
Yes, that goes to the state. I don't get a copy of that. It does also, a copy needs to come.
Maybe I misunderstood. When Brian talked to me, hey, I submit online every year.
He might have done his work.
Yeah, he
running for
does
judge.
his online and then sends me a copy of his online form.
Okay, but we don't have to do it online. We just
I do not, you can do paper,
Swear for the same.
here's, yes,
So mine is,
yes. I still.
All of them look at.
6 days late.
Okay, yeah, we good.
Yeah.
Reports, so, what, being the birthday, the report.
Just want to ask, what's happening in this, the 5 ton baby concession, there's some concession happening on the.
They're digging like at the intersection.
Yeah,
There's-
four-way, Rochester and then concession.
Oh, yeah, that's that, gas.
Are they just like, updating it?
They're replacing the main line. Yeah.
Okay.
Here's actually, if you go to Peoples, they have a map, you know.
Yeah.
And the Mechanic, I just noticed Mechanic today, is it something, is it a straight road, Mechanic? Something happening along the tree. The road is blocked.
Gary was talking about that tonight. We've been reaching out to them, trying to get them to fix it,
Yeah,
and they're finally coming. They set up cones, as though they're going to work on some of those spots where the creek is washing out.
Starting to get a little scary.
Yeah,
yeah, it is scary, and I can.
I didn't qualify.
what's that?
I don't know why. You know, we didn't. That one didn't qualify when we first met with the DEP, that was 4 years ago. They said that it wasn't ready yet. And it's
Yeah.
great,
Yeah,
yeah.
we can do that.
Yeah, yeah. Now it's like,
Too late.
yeah.
Then, the 5 points, equals is gonna fix the road. Yeah.
They work right from Reach Run Road there up from the golf course.
We'll retake it.
Yeah, they'll eventually.
It's a good way to slow people down.
Extra decoration on the vehicles too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks. Nothing to bring up here.
I'm good.
I've got a couple things. First, had an email and I know it's probably been ongoing, but, strongly urge the borough to consider culling or contraceptives for the overpopulation of deer. What is happening with that? Moved here 25 years ago, had 1 deer in the yard a week. Now I have 10 to 18 every day. So I don't know if there's anything in the works. I've had other people asking about this over time too.
I can speak on what we do currently.
What?
I can speak on what we do currently. So, we offer, we offer, archery permits in our larger properties, in order to help, try to reduce the herd population. The unfortunate part is that the large parcels that we own that would qualify for such programming are in the less populated zones, right? So the main concern we have be the eastern side of, 79, which is where these complaints continue to come from. The problem is there's not large enough parcels to actively hunt. There are restrictions put on us by the county on, firearm usage and the state's, fish and games, perspective on animal, management, right? And so there's very little for us to do. I've looked into alternative options like trapping, or, there's I don't know if it's called a vaccine, but sterilizes the deer. But it's extremely expensive, both options. And as we've just raised taxes this past year, it's not a viable option for us at the time.
And 2 years ago, council, I can't remember, had the game commission come out and they talked about that and they decided that was just not.
Yeah.
Not forward again. It wasn't very.
So we're doing everything we can. The only thing else we could possibly do is try to organize like a hunt day during,
Yeah,
like hunting season, but it would be one of our large properties that aren't in these areas.
The cameras has it, the cameras is interesting, we can call it.
Yeah.
So that might be an opportunity to like, working with them. Jim Marshall, because, run the deer out. There, and
Send them that one.
I mean, they just bent down until like once in a while.
Yeah.
You see one giant drive, you have it like a half mile long or something.
Yeah, I mean, because I get the same complaint often about, the borough owns a small chunk of property here, or there's, 5 acres here, why can't we, why can't you do something? And it's the risk that archery isn't a guaranteed kill, you shoot them, you track them, and then you recover the body.
They go at any place,
Yeah,
even when
yeah.
you didn't say this is where you were going.
Yeah, and so when you're close to, these really suburban neighborhoods, you could shoot a deer in a property that's 5 acres, then it could run off and die in the front yard of a family, who isn't pro hunting, or isn't pro, population management, right? And so that opens you up to a whole nother, so it's a very delicate dance that we're doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just bringing it up. I didn't know.
Yeah.
If we had a program in place. Next thing, and I'm, sad that, Tim isn't here, but, I just had several friends, neighbors, wondering when the Franklin is gonna open again, for the benefit of the borough.
I just got an email update from them. It said, yeah, they still have to go through some things and they're not even sure they'll be open this summer.
Two planning commission.
Two
meetings.
planning commission meetings and then I guess they'll have to come to council is what their email said. It could be a couple. Franklin.
For Franklin, Inn.
They've been updating along the way, like they've been posting stuff and
Okay.
splitting stuff.
Okay,
Are they,
you know what the,
are they making changes?
I don't know why they would
Go
need
through
any of that,
two
because you don't
Okay.
change the footprint. Why
And
would
as
you-
restaurant update, due to the delays with various required professional reports, summer is not looking doable. Process of working with the borough to get approvals for the renovation has finally begun. We hope to get administrative approval, but it sounds like we must go through probably 2 planning committee meetings. I'm hoping only 1 will be needed. And then a township meeting for the permits. Each meeting is only once a month, so now it's looking more like fall.
So, well, we should have asked Tim while he was here, but I don't know why they would, unless they're making substantial changes.
But I wonder why they would change the footprint of the restaurant.
I don't think
They
they
just-
are.
Then there'd be, I don't think they wouldn't have to be around.
Yeah, it was just the kitchen, unless they're expanding the kitchen.
But there's not permitting for the kitchen. It's not
Unless they're
occupancy only.
doing it
And
inside,
commercial use of the
Yeah.
permit.
you know.
So even though they're not taking the footprint, but why are they in front of the planning
Not a
commission with that?
Right.
I'm confused.
If they're enlarging, I don't know the details, I
Yeah.
understood they were making an enlargement of the kitchen or some
All right.
portion of the building. That's
Okay.
what gets them into the planning.
All right.
I don't have firsthand details of it.
So they're changing something, that's the reason.
Yeah.
Oh.
Not just rebuilding what was already.
I don't even know how they can make the kitchen bigger.
Then they have to move the rest of the building out, obviously, right, or they'll lose floor space for seating.
I think they were moving.
You look at the back, right, they got all that like stuff that's porchy and like outdoorsy, maybe they're gonna take that all over with building. Yeah.
That's Tim. Be nice.
Yeah, yeah.
And like copy us on an email and see
Okay,
what.
I'll ask Tim.
Because people have asked too, I've been getting
Yeah.
asked here.
Second, I went, at the invitation of the 2 gentlemen who bought former Young World, 4 Points Deli, and, listened to them. They asked, for me to visualize, see their concepts, understand what they're looking to do with the building, and their goals. They expressed that they're not changing the footprint at all. They are refurbishing the inside. Right now, plan is to start like phase 1 would be a deli counter on the one side. And then, like a coffee station, self-serve kind of on the other side. And a restroom, and have the outside, which already has the overhang, be like outdoor seating and utilize, the playground that's there for, kids, that, if you're there for a coffee or sandwich. They, have future plans, perhaps for the upstairs, rooms that are upstairs, that would be step 2. They express, quite a bit of frustration to me, about, the process so far. So I listened, It sounds like they have engineers, saying, one thing, engineers and attorneys saying one thing, and then they're hearing something different from the borough. And so that's why they're wanting me, council, whoever will come talk to them or see what they're planning to do. They gave me copies of, their plans and different, submittals that they have, so I listened, I'm not saying one thing or another. What my understanding is that we are, and me, I say the borough, is requiring a full-blown site development plan. And it's their understanding from their engineers and attorneys that that is not required. So they're not quite sure what voice or what venue they have to talk to whoever that'll listen to get this resolved, whether a full-blown site plan is required or not. Again, I'm not taking sides, I'm just telling you what.
Have they tried to file an application or something? Been told it's not enough.
Yeah, I have thoughts. We've informed them what information they need to give us in order us to make a determination on whether or not they need a full, land development process. They have failed to give that to us so far. And so because of that, it's in limbo. They never applied for any permits. They never submitted any full applications. We're waiting on action by them.
Okay,
That's definitely not their position.
that's not their position.
I understand, but we can't make full determinations about everything we need.
Did they go
I
with
think
the,
Conversation really does need to have. I understand, and we've all talked about this, right? I understand if it's development, then let's get what they need, either move forward or don't move forward. I still haven't seen, and I don't need to necessarily, but they still haven't seen the nexus of, is this development? I think that's the crux of their issue. They're saying, we don't think we have to do all this stuff because it's not development. And then anytime they ask that, they're getting another list of things that they have to do and not kind of clarity on what exactly is requiring development. That's my understanding of their positions based on multiple conversations. I agree. That's kind of what I heard too. And that they're just like, we're two residents here in the borough, want to improve this corner for the benefit of the community. And, we just want to get it done, but there's miscue somewhere. For sure. There's miscue somewhere. I suggested, again, I'm sure no one wants to do this, but just sit down with Tim again. I'm willing to comment if I need to just say, nail it down. Like, this is exactly what you need. Either move forward or don't, but this is where it says it's development, or this is where it's not development, and let's move forward. And I think that's what they're saying. Because they were showing me where it's not development. It's just refurbishing. And, so.
If they have to change their parking in any capacity, that's a stormwater change, which automatically aggravates land development. And so, but they need to supply, in addition to their parking plan, is a survey so that they're off of all of the right of ways appropriately, which we have not received.
This building has this, if you look at the street file for this, because I've got this pretty memorized by now, it's Young World. There were variances granted back in the day.
Yeah.
And one of the variances had a contingency on it, which is that we'll do this, but you don't get any more variances. You have to stick with this for this site plan. That's in the street file, that's in the already. So that's a restriction right there that makes it tricky for parking, which we knew when they were going into the parking thing. But if they want to overhaul parking, they're gonna run into that.
Yeah.
Plus, like you said.
And then the intersection off the corner.
Yeah.
Which the state will never approve.
Yeah, so they're gonna have to tiptoe around the parking part of it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to get
A resolution.
a resolution.
Yeah, it
Whatever
sounds like
it
Because
disconnect.
this is supposed to benefit the community, you know, this is an eyesore, on a corner that's heavily traveled and it could be a benefit, so how can we make this work?
If it's a sticking point, is the parking part or something.
I mean, they showed me drawings, I don't know if they're accurate, but they showed me drawings of.
So we need the information to confirm that it is.
Yeah.
We haven't received it.
Yeah, so they would hand it in, even the renderings,
We were rendering, we don't have active surveys to prove that they're off of right of ways based on our ordinances.
okay.
Yeah.
And then again, that's a tricky piece of property because of the variances that are sitting in the street file. If their lawyers would pull the street file, they would see what they were walking into. Yes.
Well, I think. Yeah, just moving toward a solution one way or the other, I think is.
That's what that's.
I think everybody wants to see this go. And it's just, it seems like an impasse that needs to.
Yeah, I have strong opinions on it, but, you know, we've directed them to our ordinances and what they need to do. And they've repeatedly tried to find a gray area instead of compliances, and that's how we put it. All right, my opinion.
Okay, so where do we go next?
They need to supply the information we requested.
Is there an email?
Tim sent them an
Yeah,
email.
yes.
Okay,
Yes.
something
There's like a
about-
Yeah,
punch
there's
list,
lots
right?
of emails.
Just give us what's on the punch list.
Yeah,
and what
we
we
just wanted the two ordinances, like the information we need to move forward. Just
got. Do one of you guys want to sit down with that letter and say, what's the problem with this letter? What do you
I
think?
haven't looked at it in a while,
Okay.
unless there's anything else.
I mean, the easiest way to do this would just be Tim, them, and whoever wants to be involved, but, you know. I'm not going to approve anything, it's a variance in a residential area that needs to be done appropriately until we have all the information we need to make sure it's not violating our ordinances.
I spoke to their attorney, well, this was last month.
Yeah.
There's some back and forth. And it was talking about. It's not his area or so I don't think he would sit in on that meeting either, so. You may attend or any of them.
It's frustrating because that would be great to get that off.
Okay, so you guys,
Yeah, I can say it's on.
yeah, and Laura or if you have your sense.
Yeah.
Is there anything else?
No.
Good too. Oh. Peterbilt has paved that walkway.
How nice, huh?
Yes.
Isn't that fantastic?
Connectivity.
That's it.
Perfect steps. Steps, so we can at least something. All right, so something else. Yeah.